Begin the Mishnah on the bottom of Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Nachri shehilva es Yisrael al chemtzai, a guy that lent money to a Yid, and it was lent for chametz, meaning the chametz was a collateral for this loan. Achara Pesach, so now after Pesach, mutter b'hana, you're allowed to have hana from this chametz. So this collateral of chametz, so what happened over here, the Nachri lends the Yid for this chametz, and the collateral is in the reshus of the guy, and the Yid did not pay up his loan when the time comes. So what happens? The guy keeps this chametz, he keeps this collateral. So now that the Yid did not pay up his loan, what do you see? That this collateral of chametz was really the guy's whole time. So therefore it's not considered to be chametz of a Yid that was left over Pesach. We learned in the previous Mishnah, chametz of a Yid that's left over Pesach, you can't have a noah after Pesach. But if it's chametz of a guy that's left over Pesach, you could. So because this is a mashkin, this is collateral, that's the guy's, so therefore it's mutter ba'ana after Pesach.
Isn't it still it's owned by the Jew still? I mean, it's just
right, but now that we see that the Jew did not pay, and the guy keeps this collateral, so therefore you see that the entire time over Pesach it belonged to the guy. The Gemara is going to explain more details about this. We'll see. Yisrael shehilva es nachri al chemtzai. Yisrael shehilva es nachri. A Yid that lends money to a guy, and the chametz is placed as a collateral in the reshus of the Yid. The guy is giving the Yid chametz collateral. So then, achara Pesach asa b'hana. After Pesach, it's also to have any hana of this, because now again what happened is the guy did not pay up, and you're keeping that chametz. And now you see that this chametz is really yours all the time, the entire Pesach. So it's chametz of a Yid that's left over after Pesach. So you're not allowed to have hana of it after Pesach. Okay, now the exact case of what happened here is going to be explained in the Gemara. We'll see. But before the Gemara gets to explaining the Mishnah, it starts off with a more general machlokes, the nigea to a loan, and regarding a payment when you collect for a loan, and then it brings it back to our Mishnah. Itma, we learned the following machlokes. Bal chayv, when it comes to a creditor. So you owe him money, and when you borrowed the money from him, you made up with him, as Rashi over here says, that your possessions, your properties, are going to be meshubit to this loan. There's a lien on your properties. If you don't pay up, then the creditor could come and collect from your properties. So regarding this bal chayv, so what happens if you didn't have money to pay him and he comes and collects from your properties? How does this work? Abaya Omar, Abaya says, L'mafreya hu goyve. Whatever the creditor is collecting, he's collecting retroactively. Meaning, not that you didn't pay him money and he's taking these properties. Whatever he takes is really his retroactively from the time when he lent you the money. Rava says what he collects is not retroactive. Whatever he collects is from today onward. It's his only from now, not retroactively from when he lent you the money. So the Gemara will explain what the nafgemina, what the relevance of this machlokes is. What happens now if the loive himself is the one that decided to give this to hektish, give these properties to hektish, or vizaven loive, the borrower, decides to sell any of these properties, nobody would argue the osi malva v'tarif, that the malva, the creditor, the lender could come and grab away these fields for the loan that you owe him. These fields, before you gave them to hektish, before you sold it, there was already a lien on these fields that belongs to him. So you don't have the right to go and sell it. He can come and take it away. And even if you give it over to hektish, even though at this point it's still in the loive and the borrower's possession, he hasn't collected it yet. You still have the option to pay him, and he shouldn't collect from these fields. But yet you don't have the ability to be makdish it to hektish. Rashi here brings the pasuk of the ishki yaktish's beisai, ma beisai b'rishusai, avkol b'rishusai. In the last line, Rashi says that it has to be something which is in your rishus. And since this person has the right to collect from it, so therefore you can't be makdish it. So not only can't you sell it, and if you do, you can go and grab it away from the buyer, but you also cannot be makdish it either. And v'asi malve uparik. If you did give it to hektish, the malve comes and takes it from the hektish. He actually redeems it from the hektish. But as the Gemara here explains, he doesn't have to pay the hektish the full price in order to redeem it. Because really the loiva didn't have the right to sell it. It belongs to the malva, to the debtor, to the creditor, that is. So therefore he just has to pay hektish a token of a price to redeem it. The Tanan, it says in a Mishnah in Erchen, Moisif oid diner, that if someone owes you money and then he takes the properties, that there was a lien on those properties that he owed you money for them, and he went and he was makdish it, and you can go and redeem it from the hektish. You don't have to pay hektish the full price. You pay them a token of whatever money it is, and then you can redeem it for yourself, and you also take the value of that money that you just spent in order to redeem it. So what do we see over here? That this person really did not have the right to be makdish it, and therefore you can take it back from hektish. So this is all when it comes to the loiva. The borrower, so he does not have the right to be makdish or to sell any properties that are a lien in a loan. Kipligi, what's the argument here about Abaye and Rava? The Zavin, Malva, if it's the Malva himself that went and sold these fields. The Kaddish Malva, and the Malva was makdish these fields before it came time to collect them. But the Malva went and sold them. Says what I have in these fields is the right that I have to collect in these fields. I'm selling it to someone else, and I'm being makdish it to hektish. And now the question is, after he actually goes ahead and collects them, could he retract that sale? Could he retract that hektish? Could he say, I changed my mind, I want to keep it for myself? So Abaye says, L'mafreya hu goyve, that when you're collecting these fields, you're collecting them, and now we see retroactively that it was really yours from the beginning. And kivin the mata zimne v'loy pare, now that the time to collect your loan came, and this debtor did not pay you up money, he's paying you with these fields, igloy milsel mafreya, so now what's revealed is retroactively the meikara b'rishus havakoy, that these fields are really yours, and the shaper aktish, and therefore it was yours to give to hektish, and the shaper zav, and it was also yours to sell. And once you sold it, once you gave it to hektish, you can't retract that from that. It's because it was yours and you gave it away. You already sold it. You already gave it up. This is Abaye's shitta. Rava says no. Mikan ulahaba hu gaive. When you're collecting properties from the borrower, because he didn't pay you money, so you're collecting these properties. So it's only from now that when you collect them that it becomes yours. Kivin di lavale zuzi have misalik le bezuzi. This borrower, if he had money, he would have paid you money. So now he didn't have any money. So ishtakach, it comes out to hashtikakani. It's only now that he did not have the money, today it became yours. But otherwise, he could have paid you money. So how could you say that when you were makdish it before, or you sold it before, it was yours to sell? It wasn't yours to sell. He could have paid you off with money. So in other words, in simple words, the basis of the machlokes here between Abaye and Rava is, when you have a lien on a certain property, do I say that that shibud, that lien is strong enough that you have a certain kinyan, enough of a kinyan that you can sell it? And if it turns out later that this is the property that he's giving you for the loan, so now retroactively we say that really all the time you had a kinyan, you had a shibud on this property, and it was yours to sell, it was yours to give to hektish. If he's going to end up paying you, so then he'll remove that ownership you have. But really, from the time of the loan, from the first moment of the loan, you really have an ownership on this property. Or it's the other way around. A shibud is only a right that you have to collect in the case that he won't pay you. But in the case that he does pay you, so then adarab, it turns out that that right was only a right, but it was really not an ownership at all. So how could you sell it until you find out whether this is actually going to be yours? Is he going to pay you cash, or is he going to give you these fields? So therefore, until that point, whatever you were makdish, whatever you sold, is not sold. It's only mikan ulahaba. That's the machlokes of Abaye and Rava. So now the Gemara brings a contradiction on what Rava himself said. Rava himself said that when you're collecting something, you're collecting a field that was meshubit, it's only mikan ulahaba. Asks the Gemara, Omi Amar Rava hachi. Did Rava say so? V'ha'amar Rami Bachame. So Rami Bachame said as follows. Reuven shemachas sada l'Shimon. Reuven sold a field to Shimon b'achrayis. B'achrayis means he took responsibility for the ownership of the field. That if anybody's going to come, Shimon is concerned that maybe Reuven owes someone money in advance before he sold his field to him, and now that creditor is going to come and confiscate the field from him. So therefore, Reuven takes responsibility. Whoever will confiscate it, I take responsibility to pay you back. But now, what else happened over here? V'zokfon olav b'milveh. Shimon, when he bought this field, did not pay for the field that he bought. He placed a loan on this field. He wrote a star that I owe you money for the field that I bought. Then what happened? Reuven dies. So now Reuven did have a balchayv. He owed somebody money. Now that balchayv comes v'tarif le'mishimon, and he wants to take this field away from Shimon. The field, he says, is meshubet to me before you bought it. So Shimon wants to keep his field, and now Shimon owes money to Reuven anyways, right? Because he never paid for the field that he bought. So Shimon says to himself, so why should I pay money to the Yorshim of Reuven, to Reuven's children, for the field that I owe their father? I never paid for this field. Let me just pay the balchayv that Reuven owes money to. Let me pay them directly the money, and I'll keep my field. So va'asa Shimon went u'faisei bezuzi, and he appeased this balchayv that wanted to confiscate the field from him, and he gave him the money that he anyways owed to Reuven. So he gave them the money, and he said, "Let me keep the field." That's what he did. So what he did was good. Was it right what he did? So the Gemara says he made a mistake. Why is this? The din would be that the inheritors of Reuven, the children of Reuven, can come Shimon, and they can tell Shimon, why did you pay the money to this creditor, to this balchayv? So before I read the Gemara inside, the rule regarding Yisaimim is you can only collect from Yisaimim properties, karkois. Metaltalin is something that you cannot collect from Yisaimim. They're not meshubed to be collected from Yisaimim. Karkois, which were in the possession of the father. The father was alive, and then he passes away, any creditor could come and collect from karkois. But from metaltalin, from any movable items, from money, that any creditor does not have any right to collect from Yisaimim. So over here, what did this Shimon do? This Shimon went and paid cash to these creditors that came to collect the chayv from Reuven's children. So the din is that Reuven's children can say, Asu b'nei Reuven v'amri le'le Shimon. They tell Shimon as follows, Anan metaltali shavik avung gabach. What did our father leave over for us that was in your possession? You owed our father money. You never paid for the field that you bought. Cash, you owed him money. That's what our father left over by you. And therefore, metaltali the yasmi lebal chayv loy mishtabdi. The metaltal, the money that was owed to us, that our father left, that was owed to us, that's something that should not be paid to the Yisaimim, because Yisaimim don't even have a right to collect from that. We have the right to collect from you that money, because that's the money you owed our father. But to pay this to the balchayv of our father, a balchayv from Yisaimim cannot collect cash or any metaltalin. The only thing he could collect is from karkois. So when you paid these Yisaimim, it was not right, the fact that you pay them. So therefore the money that you owe us for this field that you bought, that you never paid, you still owe us that money. Pay us the money that you owed. The fact that you gave the money to these Yisaimim, that was not a right thing that you should have done. That's not going to pay off the loan, the money that you owe us.
Yisaimim is the children of the...
The what? Correct. So the children, the halacha b'negei to Yerusha, by Yisaimim, is that when they have to pay up a loan for their father, what do they have to pay up with? The balchayv only collects karka and not metaltalin. Shimon, which owed money to the father of the Yisaimim, that owed money to Reuven, it was money that he owed. And he went and took money and now paid it to the balchayv. But the balchayv doesn't have a right to collect from money. The balchayv only has a right to collect the karkois. So the money that he paid them to appease them, not to take away his field, was money that he shouldn't have given them. They don't have any right to collect from this.
It's full karkois.
It's
full karkois.
And it doesn't make a difference. But he owed money because he didn't pay for the karka. So now it's money that he owes. And that money he went and he gave the Yisaimim. Only karka itself could you collect from Yisaimim, but not the money. So why did you pay them that money? That's the taina that the Yisaimim have to Shimon. So this is what Rami Bar Chama said. On this Rava said, if Shimon is wise, so then he has a way out of this. What does he do? Magbi luhu ara. So he comes to the Yisayimim and say, okay, so you're telling me that I did the wrong thing to pay these balchayv of your father the money. So I still owe you money for the field that I bought from your father that I never paid. So I don't have any money to pay your father. Here, take my field. Take the field that I bought from your father. Here, take the field itself. And then, v'hada gavel aminayu. And now that they're going to have a field that he's giving them, that he's paying them, now he can collect that field back from them. As much as he owes them money for the field that he bought that he never paid their father, the moment they collect the field from him, now they owe him money. Because like it said at the beginning of the story, their father took responsibility that if this field is going to be confiscated from him, he's going to reimburse him. So now that he has a field, he can now go and collect it straight back from the Yisayimim. Who's the creditor and who's the debtor over here? On one hand, he owes money to them because he never paid for the field. But on the other hand, now they're going to owe him money because now they're going to be the debtors that owe him money for the field that was confiscated from him. So what does he do?
The shibud of the balchayv. The shibud of the balchayv came first.
Doesn't make a difference. That he paid off already. He gave them the money. The balchayv has no tainus. The balchayv got his money and he goes l'chaim or l'shalom. Now the machlekes is between the buyer and the Yisayimim. The Yisayimim say, pay us for the field. He says, I paid your balchayv. Aren't you happy I paid your balchayv? So they say, no, that when you paid our balchayv, you weren't supposed to do that. They didn't even need a right to collect from this. Okay, so the Rava says, give them, take the field itself, and the moment they take the field itself, then he comes back to them and say, oh, now you have to give me back this field because your father took responsibility that if it gets confiscated for me, you're going to give it back to me. Let's see inside.
Is there a din that I owe
him? That's what's coming in the Gemara, yes. So again, ipikeach shemen, if shemen is smart, then what do you do? Magbi luhu ara. He gives them the field itself that he bought from the father, and then then he collects it back. To Omar Rav Nachman, because Rav Nachman said, Yisayimim shegovu karka b'chayves aviyem, Yisayimim that collect a field after the father passed away. But how did they collect this field? Because that person owed their father money. Another balchayv that they owe money to could now go and collect the field for their loan. So if you have Yisayimim that their father was owed money from one person and also owed money to somebody else, so now they collect the field from the person that owes their father money, but now someone else could come and take that field. The chiddush of Rav Nachman is, even though that field was not in the father's possession when he was alive, they collect this field after the father passes away, yet another balchayv could now come and collect that field for the loan that their father owes him. So the same thing over here, this person goes and pays them the karka and then says, well, the karka is mine. So really, in essence, what the Gemara is saying is, I think the Rashba says this, that he doesn't have to give them the karka, take it back. He says the karka could remain in my possession because I'm going to pay you with this karka, but then you're immediately going to have to give it back to me because your father took responsibility if it gets confiscated. So therefore that karka stays in my possession. This is what Rava said. So now the Gemara explains, from here you see that Rava held that when you collect a karka for a loan, it reveals retroactively that this was always yours. How do I see this? If you're going to say that when you collect a field, it's revealing retroactively that because you had a lien on it, it was always yours. So therefore, so therefore, another balchayv could now come and collect this karka. The Yisayimim are getting this karka today. It wasn't into possession of the father before. They're collecting this karka today. And nevertheless, we say that another balchayv of their father can come and take it. How can he come and take it? The Yisayimim could say, this is not a field that was ever in our father's possession. This is a field that we got today. What do you have a connection to this field to collect it for the chayv that our father owed you? Elamai, the answer is, it must be that when they collect the field today, it reveals that retroactively this field really always belonged to our father. So therefore, another balchayv of the father has the right to go and collect it. The command, the govu, mechaim, davu, and dami, now that they collected it, it reveals retroactively that this field was always the father's from when he was alive, and therefore another balchayv of the father can come and take it. However, if you're going to say that when you collect a field for a loan, it's only today, so then, why could another Baal Chayv come and collect this property and say that now I have the right to collect from here? How? How does he have? Isn't this compared to Yisaimim that buy their own properties today? If Yisaimim go and buy new properties today that they buy for themselves, does this new properties that a Yisaimim would buy become mishubed? Could another Baal Chayv that was owed money to by the father, could he come and collect from this field that the Yisaimim bought today? Can't. So over here, the fact that Rava says that this, going back to the story that we had before, this lekeach, this buyer, so Rava says, let him give the field to the Yisaimim and then collect it right back from the Yisaimim. But if he's giving the field to the Yisaimim, if you're going to say that the Yisaimim only received this field today, it's like a brand new field that they bought, how does he have a right to collect it back for the achrayas, for the responsibility that the father took to pay him back? That field the Yisaimim got today. It's a new field that they bought. Elamai, I see that what does Rava hold? That the field that this buyer gives the Yisaimim to pay for the loan that he owed for the father is retroactively, you see that it really always belonged to the father. And therefore he could collect it back. So this is a contradiction to what Rava said before, that when you get the field, it's only Mikana Lahaba. It's only yours from today, not retroactively. Answers the Gemara, and here the Gemara brings up the point you mentioned before, that over here there's another rule that comes into play, that even if you would hold Mikana Lahaba, they could collect it. Shani Hasam. In that case it's different, the Amar Lahu, because the Baal Chayv could come and say to him, to the Yisaimim that is, Ki heichi the mishtabadna. Leila avuchain mishtabdana nami le Baal Chayv da avuchain. That just like there's a shibud to your father, that he owes your father money, he also owes the Baal Chayv of your father money. So what are we talking about over here? Before we see the Gemara inside, so over here we're talking about Reuven, a person that owed money and a person that was also owed money. Yeah, he has chayvus that he has to pay and he has chayvus to collect. So instead of him collecting the chayvus and then him paying up the loan to the people that he owes money to, so the person that owes him money pays it directly to the person that he owes money to. Right? So in a regular case, the Gemara brings here from Rab Nosson, you have a regular case where you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. And Reuven borrowed from Shimon, and Shimon borrowed from Levi. So instead of Reuven paying to Shimon and then Shimon paying to Levi, Reuven pays directly to Levi. Keep the middleman out, and it's as if Reuven owes the money directly to Levi. So it's the same thing over here when you have this Reuven that died, and people owe money to Reuven, and now Reuven also owed money to other people. So just like Reuven has a right to collect these fields for himself, and then he's going to have to pay it to other people that he owes money to, Rab Nosson says, keep the middle person out, and it goes directly to the person that he owes money to. With Rab Nosson, the Amr Rab Nosson says, the Tanya Rab Nosson Aymer, Rab Nosson said, Minayin l'noishe b'chaveirei mana, v'chaveirei b'chaveirei. How do I know if I have three people? One person is collecting money from an individual, and then he has to collect from someone else. I take from the first person, and I give it to the last person, and I keep the middle person out, and they could collect directly. When you pay back your loan, you don't pay it back to the person that you borrowed from necessarily, but you pay it back to the original person that the money is owed to. If the person you borrowed the money from owes the money to someone else, so you go and pay directly to the person that the principal is owed to him. You go direct without the middle person. So what's the Gemara saying? So when Rav Nachman before said that Yisaimim collected properties after the father passed away, and now another Baal Chayv could come and confiscate and take those properties for their loan. How could another Baal Chayv come and take it? Can't the Yisaimim say, these properties we got today, Mikana Lahaba, this is our properties that we bought. How do you have the right to come and collect it from us? The answer is because we eliminate the Yisaimim, the middle person, which in this case is the Yisaimim, we see as if they don't exist b'chlal. the Balchayv that's owed money to from the Yisayimim says to the Yisayimim, forget about you. The karka that you collected goes directly from the Balchayv that gave you the karka to us. And it's as if you don't exist in between. So therefore, even though you got it after your father passed away, but really the right that you have to collect it is our right, because it goes directly to us. That's what Rav Nassim was saying, and that explains what Rav Nachman was saying. Going back to the case that Rava spoke about, when you have this leikeach that's in a very interesting position. On one hand, he owes money to Reuven because he never paid for the field that he bought. On the other hand, the moment his field is confiscated, he's now owed money by their father because he took responsibility to pay him. So he's both a creditor and a debtor at the same time. So therefore, what happens over here? What he says is, I'm going to give you this field for the money that I owe your father for the field, but then immediately I become the creditor that I could collect back the field. So I'm both the Balchayv that owes money, and I'm also the person that your father owes money to me. So instead of me giving the field and then taking back the field, this field really is directly mine. In this case, he's both the person that owes and the person that the money is going to be owed to, and therefore he says, so it goes directly to me. The field that you're getting, I eliminate the Yisayimim that got this field, and it goes directly back to me, so I don't have to give it to you, B'chlal. I can keep this field in my possession, based on the rule of Rab Nassim. Okay. So this concludes the hesber of the machlokes of Abaye v'Rava b'negei to a loan b'chlal, when there is a lien on a field, properties, whether it goes l'mafreya when you collect it, whether I say that collection is l'mafreya, now you see that it was always yours, or it's only mikana lahaba. I collected it mikana lahaba. Just before I go weiter, there's a reshima from the Rebbe on this Gemara that is unbelievable. How the Rebbe explains the pshat of this halacha of Rab Nassim. The Rebbe explains this whole Indian in Avodas Hashem, B'kitzur, in one word. What the Rebbe there says is that every Yid is a Balchayv. Every Yid owes the Eibishter in Avodas Hashem. And when a Yid owes and doesn't pay up his loan, so the Eibishter comes to collect from a Yid says that you have to go to someone that owes me. Who is the one that owes me? It's the Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'zeh, and especially the Tzadikim and the Spashtusa de Moshe, the Rebbe of a generation that owes me to help me in my Avodas Hashem. So instead of collecting from me, you should go directly to the Rebbe and collect from him, that he should be the one to give the Nesinas Kayach for Avodas Hashem. You could look into the Rishimis, it's in Chiveres Kuf Nun, the Rebbe explains this whole Gemara, a big ariches, what it means in Avodas Hashem. Now the Gemara brings our Mishnah and says that l'chayre we have a raya from our Mishnah regarding this machlokes of Abaye and Rava. Tanan, what did we learn in our Mishnah? Nachri shehilves Yisrael al chemtzai. So a guy that lent a yid and the chametz is a collateral, and the chametz is in the guy's rishus. Achara Pesach mutabano. After Pesach it's mutabano. So actually, right now when the Gemara asks this question, the Gemara is thinking that the chametz is not in the guy's rishos over Pesach. You told the guy, if I won't have money to pay you, it's this chametz that you'll collect from. This is where your shibud is. Here's the lien on this chametz that you'll collect your loan from. But it's still in the yid's rishos, the entire Pesach. So what does it say in the Mishnah? Mutter bahana, that after Pesach, if it turns out you don't pay your loan and the guy collects from this chametz, it's mutter bahana. If you're going to say, like Abaye, that when the guy collects it, we see retroactively that it belonged to him, the entire Pesach. So Amtalachi, therefore, mutabana, therefore you could have a nar from this chametz. The guy is collecting from this chametz, retroactively we see that it belonged to the guy, the whole Pesach. But if you're going to say that after Pesach and you didn't pay, the guy collects from this chametz, but it's only from today, because he didn't pay, and my mutabana, why are you allowed to have a nar from this chametz? But Rishus of the Yisrael have a koi. The entire Pesach, it was in the Rishus of the Yid. That's the Gemara. Here, this case is not the same like the machlokes of Abaye and Rava. Abaye and Rava were talking about properties that remain in the Rishus of the loive, of the debtor, the entire time. And the question is whether it belongs to the malva once he collects it, whether it's retroactively his. Here we're talking about a mashkin. We're talking about chametz that you gave the guy before Pesach. He took it into his possession before Pesach as a mashkin, as collateral. And therefore, after Pesach, and he's collecting from it, he keeps it. It turns out that it was his the entire time. In this case, even Rava would be maida that it's his the entire time. So there's no raya from our Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Tanoi. Shall we say that the machlokes of Abaya and Rava is a machlokes of Tanoim? Because in a Braisa it says, Yisrael shehilvul nochri el chemtzai, a yid that lends money to a guy for the chametz is the collateral. So la'achar Pesach, after Pesach, ein over. You're not over. Mishum Rab Meir Amru, in the name of Rab Meir, was said, over. You are over. So the Yid lends the guy money, and the chametz of the guy is the collateral for this, and there's a machlokes about this chametz which was placed as a collateral, whether you're over or not. What's the basis of the machlokes? So don't you think, my love, b'hakam iflagi, they're arguing in the machlokes of Abaya and Rava. The Mar Savar l'mafreya goiver. Rab Meir says that when the Yid collects from this chametz, whatever he collects is retroactive. And therefore, this chametz of the guy was collateral for the loan, and therefore now it turns out that it was the Yid's entire Pesach. Umar Savar mikana la goiver. And the Tanna Kama says what you're collecting from this chametz is only from today going forward. But the entire Pesach, it wasn't the Yid's yet. And therefore, he's not over on it. So isn't this the machlokes between the Tanna Kama and Rab Meir? Says the Gemara, no, that cannot be the pshat. Is this logical to say? Let's see what it says in the next case in this Mishnah or in this Braisa. What does it say in the next case in the Braisa? If it's the other way around, if a Yid is lending the Goy chametz, the Goy money that is, and the Yid is giving the Goy, he's placing the chametz collateral for the Goy. When it comes after Pesach, divrei hakoil over. Everybody would agree that you're going to be over on this chametz. It was in the possession of the Yid, and you can't use it after Pesach. You can't have a no of it after Pesach. The question is, why not? Over here, the Yid was placing his chametz as collateral for the guy. Why does everybody agree that you're going to be over on this? Here, the same machlokes should apply, and here the opinions should be in the reverse. In the previous case, when it was the collateral of the guy, it was the guy's chametz. So the opinion that says over there that you're not over because it's lamafreya, that because it's mekana lahaba, that is hacha. Over here you should be over because the guy is only collecting it mekana lahaba, and over Pesach it's in the rishus of the Yid. Lamandama hasam over, before the opinion that says before Rab Meir that says that you are over because lamafreya, the Yid has this chametz. Hacha ain't over. Over here it turns out that lamafreya belongs to the guy, that you should not be over. So the exact same machlokes in the Reisha should apply in the Sefer, just in the reverse. Depends on who is the one that's the creditor that has in reverse the ownership of this chametz. So that cannot be the pshat of this Braisa. Ella says the Gemara, similar to what we said before regarding the Mishnah, we're not talking about chametz that the lender gave the borrower, that the borrower gave the right to the lender to collect from it, but kagayin sheher hinoi. It was given as a collateral. It was already given in the rishos of the lender. Sheher hinoi etzlei, the kamiflagi b'de Rabbi Yitzchak. And they're arguing how to apply the concept that Rabbi Yitzchak said. What's the concept that Rabbi Yitzchak said? Here is a concept regarding every mashkin. The Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, minayin lebal chayiv shekayne mashkin. From where do I know that a lender that receives a collateral, so he's kind of this mashkin? What does it mean he's kind of this mashkin? Rashi says that it's his, and yes, he's not just like a shomer. You would think that a person that has a collateral, it's not his yet, he just has to guard it. Says Rashi, no, it becomes his to this in the sense that if any einus happens to it, whatever happens to it, it's his responsibility. Because I'm giving this for you now temporarily as a collection for the payment, so therefore you take full responsibility and you kain it in that sense. So how do I know this? From where do I see that you're kain of this mashkin? So he says, Shenema, because the pasuk says, Ulucha tiyet tzedakah. The halacha by a mashkin is that if you're taking a pillow or a garment that the borrower has to use at night, you have to give it back to him to be able to sleep and use it at night. And the pasuk describes this as a tzedakah. You're giving back something that's really yours, you're giving it back to him as a tzedakah. So Rabbi Yitzchak said, if you're not kind of the mashkin, if it's not yours, you giving it back to him to use, why is that called a tzedakah? So mikan, it's yours. It's not yours anyways, it's his. So why is it called a tzedakah? So mikan lebal chayiv shekayne mashkin. From here I see that a bal chayiv that gets a mashkin into his property, into his possession, you're kain it, it's yours. So now this applies over here, benegeh to the mashkin of chametz. When you get a mashkin of chametz into your property, it's yours now, even though it's only a mashkin, and the debtor might take it back, but you're kainet. But now the question is, does this apply between a yid and a guy as well? The pasuk over here is talking about between one yid and another yid. The question is whether this applies between a yid and a guy as well. Tanakama savar hanimili Yisrael mi Yisrael. This pasuk that we say that when you get a mashkin that it becomes yours, that's between one yid and another yid. The karina beilachati tzedakah over here I say this pasuk that it's a tzedakah, that it belongs to you, and when you give it back to him to use at night, if he needs it at night, it's a tzedakah. Al Yisrael menachri, when you're getting a mashkin from a guy, then loikani, that you're not going to be kaina. That's what the Tanakama holds. So therefore he says, when you got the mashkin from the guy of chametz, you're not going to be over on Bal Yirah, and it's not chametz sha'aval of a Pesach, because you're not kind of this mashkin, even though it was in your possession. But Rav Meir says, Kal v'chaymer. No, it's a Kal v'chaymer. Yisrael kani. If I get a mashkin from another yid, the pasuk says that I'm kained. Yisrael menachri lekol shekeh. A yid that gets a mashkin from a guy, most definitely the Torah would say that you kained this mashkin from a guy. If from another yid you're kained, for sure from a guy, a mashkin that you get from him, you're going to be kained. And therefore, if you get a mashkin of chametz from a guy in your possession over Pesach, you're going to be over Bal Yirah, and you're not allowed to have a no of it after Pesach. That's the pshat and the machlokes and the reisha of this braisa. They're arguing whether I apply Rabbi Yitzchak's din in this case or not. Then, what's the pshat and the seifa of that braisa? Avol nachri shehilves Yisrael al chemtzoi achara Pesach. But in the case where the guy borrowed the money from the yid, and the yid gave the guy a mashkin chametz, so over here, divrei hakoil, everybody would agree over that you are going to be over on it and you can't use it after Pesach. Hasam vadai nachri mi Yisrael loy kani. A guy that receives the mashkin from a yid, the guy does not acquire that mashkin in this time period until it comes to pay. He's not kainet. The pasuk Yitzchak brought is only between one yid and another, or maybe from a mashkin from a guy that's given to a yid, but not a mashkin that a yid gives to a guy. That the guy was not kaina, and therefore over Pesach this chametz was in your possession, and therefore you're definitely over.
He gave him after Pesach.
Huh?
He gave him after Pesach.
No, he gave it before Pesach. The mashkin was given before Pesach.
No,
Achara Pesach, after Pesach, divrei hakoil over. You read it separately. Nachri shalvis Yisrael al chemtzoi. Achara Pesach divrei hakoil over. Hasam vade nachri mi Yisrael leikani. So now the Gemara goes back to our Mishnah. Now that we explained over here that even when you receive a mashkin, not necessarily are you kained, you are kained. Now let's see, the Gemara applies this back to our Mishnah. Tanan, what did it say in our Mishnah? Nachri shehilves Yisrael chemtzai. A guy lends a yid money, and the yid gives the guy a mashkin for the chametz. So what did it say in our Mishnah? Achara Pesach. So after Pesach, mutter bahana, you're allowed to have hana from this chametz. Why? So what did we explain before? Because the yid gave the guy the chametz as a mashkin, and the chametz throughout Pesach was in the possession of the guy. So it's not chametz that went over Pesach. True, we explained before that this was not just a lien that he told him that he could collect from this chametz. This chametz was given into his possession, but ha'amre, didn't we just say nachri mi Yisrael loy kani? A mashkin that a guy receives from a yid, he's not kind of the mashkin. So even though it was in the this chametz was in the possession of the guy the entire Pesach, but the guy was not kind of the mashkin. So how are you allowed to have a no from this chametz after Pesach? Answers the Gemara. There's another detail here. The pshat in our Mishnah is loy kashya. In our Mishnah, when you told the guy that I'm giving you this mashkin, you said another stipulation. You said, and this mashkin, you can collect it me'achshav, that it's going to be yours from today. In other words, retroactively. That's what you told him. And in the braisa that we spoke about before, and we said that if the mashkin is in the possession of the guy, he's not kind of the mashkin yet, that's because you didn't add that word me'achshav. You didn't say that you have the right to collect from it from today. So therefore, during Pesach, that mashkin still belonged to the guy. It only becomes his if you don't pay him up. Then mikan alaba becomes it. So there's a difference if you say me'achshav or not. Where do I have a source for this? That there's a difference if you say this condition, that what you're collecting should be me'achshav from now or not. Where do I see this? The Tanya, we learned this in the Braisa. Nachri shehirhin pas porni eitzel Yisrael. So a guy that borrowed money from a Yid, and he gave a guy, he gave the Yid, that is, a mashkin pas porni. What's pas porni? It's a large bread that's baked in a large oven, which is an expensive bread, so therefore this is something which is usually given as a mashkin, and he gave the Yid mashkin chametz. Eitzel Yisrael, so he gave it to the Yid. Eina oiver, so you're not going to be oiver on this chametz that was in your possession all of Pesach. Why not? Because you weren't kainet yet. You weren't kainet yet, so therefore you're not going to be over. So he follows the opinion that even though it's in the Yid's possession, this is going back to the opinion of the Tanakama before, so even though it's in the Yid's possession, you're not going to be over because it's only a mashkin. And that's the first part of the Braisa. Then it says, Vim amaloi higaticha. If the guy says that this bread that I gave you is yours, higaticha, it reached you, it's already yours, over, then you will be over. So what does this mean when he says higaticha? Maishna reisha, maishna seifa. What difference does it make when the guy is giving the Yid a mashkin if he tells him it's yours or he doesn't tell him it's yours? And alav shmam, the pshat is like we said before. Shani heiche de amalei me'achshav leheiche de loy amalei me'achshav. If the guy is giving the Yid a mashkin, so then I say that the mashkin is still in the possession of the guy and you're not going to be over on this. And therefore after Pesach you'd have a no of it. But if the guy tells the Yid, he got ticha, it's yours me'achshav, so then I say that it belongs to the Yid already and it's going to be over. Shema mina, so this is a clear ayat to this distinction that we made. Okay, we'll finish off with one second. We'll finish off with it. It's more than just achrayis. Me'achshav is not just achrayis. Me'achshav is telling him that it's yours from now. So when he collects from it, it's his retroactively. The Gemara finishes off. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braisa, Chanus Shal Yisrael, you have a store of a Yid, Umalei Shal Yisrael, and all the merchandise in that store is a Yid's merchandise. Upayel Inachim Nechnasim L'Sham. There are Gaisha workers that are working for the Yid, and they come into the store. Chametz shenimtzu sham achara Pesach, any chametz that's found in that store after Pesach, you could assume that this is chametz of a Yid that was left over. Even though there are goyim that are working there, asa b'hana, it's going to be asa b'hana, ve'ein tzarech leima ba'achili, you're not allowed to eat it after Pesach. If it's the reverse, chanus shal nachri, if it's a guy store, u'malei shal nachri, a merchandise of a guy, u'payele Yisrael nechnasim v'yetzim l'sham, and there's Yiddish workers that are coming in and out of the store, chametz shenimtzu sham achara Pesach, any chametz found in this store after Pesach, mutar b'achila, I could assume that it belongs to the guy and not to the Yiddish workers, so you're allowed to eat it. Ve'ein tzarech leima b'hana, needless to say that it's mutar b'hana after Pesach.